Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 204. Yes, we have made it to our 204th episode without being taken off air, without receiving any letters in the post. We are still broadcasting after almost 5 years. It's actually 5 years next week. And I'm delighted that we are now in the 200ths. Do not forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button so you can be kept updated about future podcasts and video productions from the Hare Krishna Project. And or if you're watching this on Facebook, and if you haven't already, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. Those are the two platforms where you can watch these podcasts. Okay, this week's podcast is one with a bit of a difference. Normally, we spend a lot of time talking about the guest, his or her background, and something very informative about Krishna consciousness. But we're doing something a bit different this week. We're touching on a really, really important issue that needs to be talked about more often and needs to be talked about in depth. Before I introduce the guest, I'm just going to add a bit of context. I'm sure most of you will have heard about or read about the formation of an organization about 12 months ago, maybe 18 months ago, called the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation. And the organization was set up to do a number of things, but primarily to campaign for and fight for justice for Srila Prabhupada. These group of devotees or Hare Krishna practitioners noticed that there were a number of things happening within the institution of ISKCON and within the Hare Krishna movement more broadly or more widely in the name of Srila Prabhupada that weren't completely accurate or correct or fair. And they became concerned about things happening that weren't actually the way Prabhupada wanted them to be. So they set up the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation. And one of the things that this group has been very strong about is campaigning against child abuse or alleged child abuse, suspected child abuse in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and to campaign for greater child protection or safeguarding within the institution as well. And many of you may have read or heard that last year, the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation hired the services of an Indian-based law firm called Garg and Garg Advocates to apply to the Indian Supreme Court to petition them to set up a statutory investigation looking into ISKCON in terms of alleged and suspected incidences of child abuse within the organization. And the application was successful. The Indian Supreme Court has allowed the formation of this new statutory inquiry or investigation. And from Garg and Garg Advocates, who are the organization, the law firm hired by the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation, I'm delighted to welcome our guest this week. It's Ajay Garg. Hello, Prabhu.
Hello.
It's great to have you with us. I appreciate you giving up your time. And I'm looking forward to our really in-depth and important conversation today. Just before we get started with the first question, I'm going to introduce Mr. Garg because he comes with a lot of experience, a lot of expertise in this particular field. He is a seasoned advocate with 29 years of distinguished practice before the Supreme Court of India and the Delhi High Court. He possesses a profound understanding of diverse legal domains, including civil, constitutional, criminal, corporate, family, and he has a lot of expertise in conducting complex litigation, drafting and negotiating critical legal documents. He's also very notable for arguing matters of national importance before constitutional benches, of the Honourable Supreme Court, with several judgments reported. And something I'm really, really keen on is that he's also recognised for significant contributions to legal aid and a commitment to justice for marginalised communities through pro bono work. And I was delighted to hear that because I spend a lot of my time speaking up for marginalised communities, particularly marginalised communities in the Hare Krishna movement. So I'm delighted that Ajay Garg has agreed to be our guest this week. Okay, let's start. We've got a lot to get through. Let's start with the first question. So Ajay, let's start from the beginning. When you first received the child abuse material from the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation related to ISKCON institutions, what stood out to you immediately?
First, let me start by thanking you for inviting me to your channel. It's an honor for me. Uh, as far as your question is concerned, what stood out to me immediately when I received the child abuse material from Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation, I must admit by saying that I was totally shocked. Why I was shocked is due to the reason that ISKCON is a very well respected, honored, and revered organization, not only in India, but all across the globe. And when you get to have certain documents which are the records of the ISKCON, the records basically pertaining to different complaints of child abuse by their own devotees or their own students in the schools. And the treatment in very serious offenses being committed in the ISKCON institutions, literally nothing was done in the sense that the matter was not reported to the police where a minor has been subjected to such kind of serious sexual, physical, emotional, psychological child abuse. So, what stood out immediately was that the information was not anecdotal or speculative. It was structured, consistent, and raised serious prima facie concerns regarding child safety within the institutional settings. So, from a legal point of view, uh, it warranted examination rather than just dismissal, which had been happening so far. So, so that is the thing which really stood out to me. The records of ISKCON itself, there was no hearsay uh, evidence as far as whatever documents were given to me by my clients.
Mm. Thank you. And
Yes.
without going into the disturbing details, can you explain the nature of the patterns that you observed across the different institutions?
See, the the pattern we observed from the documents was that the child abuse of different nature, as I just explained, whether it is sexual or physical or psychological, have been happening to the devotees from a long period of time, from starting from 1970s, I suppose, or maybe early 80s, and it continued to happen till today. And the kind of child abuse was also more or less similar in the sense that uh, it is of very serious nature. Number two, the victims, maybe in a different time frame, were the the children. And thirdly, the perpetrator of this child abuse, also happens to be the gurus, the teachers, the staff, the managers of the temples, as well as the senior students who were studying in that's quite apparent and alarming.
Hmm. And as a lawyer, what does the law require when such material comes to light, especially under statutes like the POCSO Act?
Yeah, this is a POCSO. This is called POCSO Act. So
Okay,
basically, it
POCSO
is
Act. Thank
prevention
you.
of the children from sexual offenses. Yeah. So it's basically uh, to protect the children from the Sexual Offences Act.
Hmm.
So the law is very clear. The law in India is very clear that under the POCSO Act, it is the it is the obligation and a duty of an institution, the in charge of the institution, to report the crime which has been committed to any child in the custody of that particular institution, to report that crime to the police or the special child protection unit police. So they have to report this crime. So this there is no discretion, no exception based on any reputation, belief, or institutional status. Once information indicating an offense against a child comes to light, it must be placed before the appropriate authorities for action in accordance with law.
Hmm.
So, this is what the law in India requires.
Hmm. Thank you. And is it legally permissible for institutions or individuals to internally handle allegations of child sexual abuse?
No, 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 no. It is not. It is not. The institutions cannot themselves handle the child allegations. I mean, the child sexual abuse allegations. Allegations involving offenses against children are a matter of criminal law. Internal processes cannot replace the statutory obligations. Any attempt to internally manage such allegations, it defeats the very object of child protection legislation. So the mechanism which unfortunately exists, I'm saying the child protection offices which the ISKCON created for the purpose of protection of child, I think sometime in 2000, because before that there were a lot of cases which have happened of child abuse which were reported, and some of the children, some of the victim survivors have even approached the US courts, which is called the Turley case, where the compensation was also awarded to them. And thereafter, the uh, the ISKCON authorities got alerted, and they created a child protection office. And whatever complaints came to this office, they used to make some kind of inquiry, wherein they were taking the statement of the victims as well as the accused persons, and then after making an inquiry, they decide whether the offense has been committed or not, and then based on that, if they reach to a conclusion that yes, uh, some kind of an offense or child abuse has happened, they used to take be putting some restrictions on the person who has committed the child abuse, maybe barring him for some time. So all these things were happening. So basically, it's more of a disciplinary measure against their own staff, or the gurus, or maybe the other temple managers and everybody else But they were not really, as per the documents which have been given to me, they were not really reporting the matter to the authorities. So internally, they were taking some disciplinary actions against their staff, and that's all. So if somebody is a survivor of an offense of rape, for example, somebody is raping a minor, and you just say that man that okay, please don't come to our temple, don't come to our school. Is it enough? So I mean, is it really giving justice to the victim, to the survivor? No. So in fact, the children who were studying in that school or in the temple, some of the staff or devotee or a guru or any other person of that institution commit something wrong, it is the bounden duty under the law for this institution to report the matter to the police and let police handle this kind of a case. They will investigate, they will take it to the court, and the perpetrator of the crime will be appropriately punished, and the victim or the survivor will get the justice, the required justice. Much cherished
mm, mm,
dream of a victim is that somehow or the other, this problem should be addressed. So it is not at all legally permissible for the institutions to internally handle. They can't. That's
mm,
just that is just like running a parallel, investigative or a parallel court or a parallel investigating agency,
mm, mm,
which is not permissible. This is against the constitution.
mm, mm. And just sharing my personal view,
Yeah,
this
yeah,
happens with so many religious groups. We
yeah,
here in the UK, we hear about it with groups like the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Latter-day Saints or the Church of Scientology. It seems to be an unfortunate and unpleasant trend in the more kind of smaller niche religious groups. I mean, it happens in the bigger Christian groups as well in Britain, but it's the smaller, more private groups that seem to be doing investigations on their own. I mean, certainly, I know we're going off at a tangent, but the Jehovah's Witnesses, they have this well-known two-witness rule that if a child is abused in the Jehovah's Witnesses, there has to be two witnesses. Well, of course, there's not two witnesses. It's just not,
yeah,
so and going to the police, who are the state, seen as the devil. We don't go to the state. So
yeah.
unfortunately, it happens in so many of these smaller religious groups.
So this is very, very unfortunate, and it is more unfortunate that okay, they have a right to take a disciplinary action against their own staff. That is fine, but
Mm,
the thing is, they also have some kind of a moral and a legal obligation to not stop there. They must really think like, I mean, these are children. I mean, you can't expect them to go to the police or to the authorities. Even their parents would be shy to, because it hurts their reputation, the reputation of their child. If somebody is subjected to a sexual offense, nobody would like that everybody should know about it. So obviously, it becomes a duty of the custodian, of the guardian. Basically, you are like a guardian because, I mean, they, they are your own students, shape of a guard. The matter to the authorities so that they may take the legal action on I mean, they will make investigation, they will make an inquiry and
mm,
proceed with the matter against the person who has committed something wrong.
mm, mm. Thank you. So after assessing the material that you received from the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation, which authorities did you approach? Did you first approach, and why?
See, after we received this material and we were sure about the credibility of the material, we my office they drafted a complaint
Mm, mm,
uh, on behalf of the survivors and the victims. Have approached uh, Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation. They have given their complaints to them, and they have authorized Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation, to represent them uh, to the child protection authorities. So what we have done is we made a complaint. We compiled all the documents. We made it a part of the complaint, and we gave it. We gave this complaint to the child protection authorities in India. That is the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, as well as the state commissions where this was happening, and the other child protection authorities and law enforcement agencies. So we send them the emails comprising this complaint and send it to them for taking appropriate action on this complaint.
Mm, mm.
So the
And
intention was to follow the institutional framework as laid down by the law. Because first of all, whenever you get to know about this, you have to report it to the police. So we were doing
mm.
this, the role which ISKCON should have done.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in terms of uh, the complaints that were passed on to the agencies, can you give us a bit of detail of what your complaints contained?
So the uh, the complaints placed on record, the material received, as I just said,
Mm,
it outlined the concerns arising from it, and uh, basically it talked about and gave the instances of child abuse, different of in different time frame with different victims and survivors, and who are the perpetrators of crime. So we have just compiled all that information, and we took all this information, as I said, from the records of ISKCON, which were provided to us. That is the Child Protection Office reports, the cases which they have dealt and decided. So we took all that information, compiled it, and put it to the state protection authorities, child protection authorities, and requested examination of that particular complaint as well as the supporting material, and asked for an action which is strictly in accordance with the statutory powers. So the emphasis was on process, compliance, and child safety, not on conclusions or any allegation beyond the material.
mm, mm. And in terms of a response, what did you expect initially from these statutory bodies at that stage?
See, we were expecting that once these child protection authorities, uh, when they read a complaint and see all those documents, they will immediately initiate some kind of inquiry or take action against the perpetrator of crime, put the law into force. So we were expecting all this, but unfortunately, all that didn't happen because we did not even get an acknowledgement from these agencies that they have received our complaints, and that is the reason that we were little disappointed by their conduct and behavior. There were different theories that why they were not taking any action. I'm not going to go into all that. So, but later on, I mean, quite recently, when we dug out what is happening, I mean, because they were not informing us that what actions they have taken or they have not taken. So we came to know that these child protection authorities, they act like a post office in the sense that our complaints were then forwarded by them to the concerned police police offices, the enforcement agencies, and they were asked to consider our reports, our complaints, and take action on that, and and send a report back that what actions we have taken. So basically, primarily, there were two major
Mm,
uh, places where this child abuse has been happening as per the record. One is the Vrindavan Gurukul, the international school, boarding school, as well as the second one is Mayapur in West Bengal. So they also had a boarding school over there. So these were the two major places where the, I mean, maximum number of cases of child abuse were getting reported. So, so what these authorities have done is they forwarded our complaint to the concerned police officers from West Bengal uh, police. They received a report. They received a report that they have made some kind of inquiry on our complaints, and they have visited the ISKCON temple, and they talked with some people there in ISKCON, and that they were informed that before 2022 there was no child abuse which has happened in Mayapur, and after 2022 there are a couple of cases which have been reported to the police by the survivors. So this was basically the crux of the report which was received from the police. So what they have done is the authorities referred it to the police. Police then asked some questions, took the answers, and then sent it back to the authorities. That's all. And this report was really just a cosmetic inquiry, because they have not even put the reports which were handy with them, which we have supplied to them with our complaint, to them to ask about about the material which came from their own offices. So they should have confronted it to them. See, tell us about this person, this victim, this happened with them on so and so year, so and so date. This is your own decisions. They should have met the child protection authorities or offices. So nothing was done. So it was just a superficial, just a cosmetic kind of inquiry, and just finished the matter.
Mm.
And from the Vrindavan police, in fact, no report came. So no report came. I mean, there was no inquiry, or maybe they had made an inquiry, God knows, but nothing came to the Commission for Protection of Child Rights, that they have not submitted any report. So they are still awaiting the report. So this is what really transpired after we gave our complaints to them.
And after a lot of a lot of frustration, I can imagine, and after repeated follow-ups, what made you finally decide to approach the Supreme Court? And why was that for you then the only remaining option?
See, we approached the Supreme Court basically because of two reasons. So I need to speak something about this, because the
Mm.
audience may not be knowing the legal intricacies, and about the procedures in law. So the Supreme Court is the apex court in India. It is the highest court. Okay, we have a hierarchy of courts, district courts, high court high court is the highest court in a state. And as far as the India as a state, as a country is concerned, so Supreme Court is the highest, the topmost, apex court. Now, the Supreme Court, uh, under Article 32 of the Constitution of India, is empowered to take up any case directly from any part of India, if they can show, or they can present to the court, that there is a violation of fundamental rights, which is enshrined in the Constitution of India. Uh, Secondly, Supreme Court takes up a case where the matter is not confined to a particular state. Because if it is confined to a particular state, some cause of action or some offense has been done in a state, then the district courts, at best, the high court of that particular state is empowered to take action. Fine. But where something is happening pan India, for example, more than one states, so the Supreme Court can take action, because otherwise you will have to go to different high courts or different state. Then they can be a conflict of judgments. So since this child abuse was apparently happening pan India in different states, in different institutions of ISKCONs, as per the record made available. So, therefore, we chose to approach the Supreme Court and file a public interest litigation. So, it's a special jurisdiction. This is called public interest litigation because generally you know that you somebody approached the court for their own cause, for
Mm,
the
mm,
for the protection of their own rights. But in India, if suppose somebody who is a victim or survivor is not able to come to the court himself, or where there is a fundamental rights violation which is going on, uh, in a large number, and some organization take up the cause of those people, the weaker section, maybe the marginalized, the children, women, and other communities, then they can espouse their cause, and then and can approach the Supreme Court and file a petition uh, on their behalf, that we are coming on their behalf. We are basically doing it for public interest. So this is called a public interest. The the child protection authorities, unfortunately, then therefore there was no other recourse left but to approach the court, because not taking any action on a complaint which discloses the commission of offenses, it itself is a violation of rights, fundamental rights. So therefore, uh, we advised our clients to move a petition in the Supreme Court
mm,
under Article 32 of the Constitution of India, which is the public interest litigation, and let the apex court know about the child abuse, which is, the systemic child abuse which is prevalent, and how no action being taken on the against the perpetrator of crime. And we asked for some kind of a order, some kind of a direction from the court to these authorities to immediately act and take appropriate action in accordance with law. So
mm,
that's how we filed this public interest litigation before the Supreme Court. And
mm.
we had to
Thank you.
escalate this matter, yeah.
Mm. And therefore, what was the Supreme Court's response when the matter was placed before it?
See, the Supreme Court treated the matter with seriousness, in the sense that they were concerned uh, about the child abuse, the prevalent in the institution, and they wanted to uh, send the matter to some kind of a neutral body instead of just sending it to the police, because they wanted first somebody to examine the entire record, the complaint which we have given, and the material which we have supplied or attached with that, disclosing the commission of offense. So they gave the directions to the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights, which is the apex child protection body, which takes the national, the overall national aspect. And they also directed the state commissions, that is the Uttar Pradesh State Commission, where the Vrindavan is situated,
Mm,
as well as the West Bengal Commission for Protection of Child Rights, where Mayapur is there. So they gave directions to all three authorities to consider our representation and take action in accordance with law.
mm. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And the order from the Supreme Court that you were able to secure on the 25th of November last
Yeah.
year, why was that so significant in terms of the context of child protection?
See, first of all, before answering this question, I would like to give all the credit to Justice Srila Prabhupada Foundation and the directors and the president of this particular organization. for espousing this cause of protection of child rights and to
mm,
fight for their rights. So far, nobody has really cared about it. The extent of child abuse which is prevalent and for such a long period of time, and the entire cover up in the institution of these crimes, nobody has raised a voice. I mean, I appreciate the works of Shanaka Prabhu as well as Dhira Govinda Prabhu, that they have rigged up this issue. They have been making documentaries. They really made the children aware. They have been making inquiries, but nobody has really taken this issue to the authorities, to the child protection bodies
mm,
or to the
mm,
courts.
mm,
So they are doing their work, no doubt, that is very much appreciable. But ultimately, who will take action? Who
mm,
will consider
mm,
this? Or who can really render the justice to these survivors and victims? It's only the courts and nobody else. So this credit goes to them that they espoused this cause, they took up this issue, and they decided that we have to fight for it till the last end. So they're not going to stop it by just maybe writing articles in the newspapers or in their own journals, or just to make start a awareness program and all that. They said no, we want to just take it to the highest level, and this issue be addressed by the people sitting at the highest offices. So therefore, uh, their decision to approach the Supreme Court carries a lot of significance, and I think it's a historical aspect that somebody
mm,
has taken this issue to the highest court. And this order is very significant. This order dated 25th of November, because this order reaffirmed that child protection is a constitutional priority and that statutory bodies cannot remain passive. The law enforcement bodies cannot just ignore, when such matters are formally brought to their notice. So it reaffirms and reiterates that if the complaint or the material, if they are if the is given to the child protection authorities, if they are informed about some kind of a child abuse, then they must act, they must consider, and they must act. So this is a very significant development which has happened, because this order uh, is going to definitely now, the child protection authorities are going to take it seriously because of this order.
mm,
Now they are accountable. They are answerable to the Supreme Court,
mm, mm.
because there are specific directions from the Supreme Court.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah,
Again, on a personal note, I can't tell you how pleased I was and delighted when I heard the news last November. And I've been around the ISKCON community for 20 years. And I first became aware of issues around child protection around 6 years ago because, well, 6 years ago was the pandemic, and I was at home a lot. I was reading things, I was seeing things on the
yeah,
internet, and I
yeah,
started to open my eyes to what was going on. And often you would hear commentators say, just go to the police, just go to the authorities. And nobody was doing it, or very few people were doing it. So it's just so significant and seismic what the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation has done by hiring your organization's services and just going to the very top, to the Indian Supreme Court. And
yes,
so
yes,
a lot of us are feeling very joyful about this. And hopefully it opens up, hopefully it encourages others to come forward as well. Other kind of victims of
yes,
child
yes.
abuse within the institution of ISKCON.
Correct, 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 correct.
So after the Supreme Court's order, you also filed fresh representations with other bodies, like the NCPCR. Uh, I'm not sure what they all stand for, but you've got the UPCPCR and the WBCPCR. Tell us what these organizations are and what was the objective behind these representations.
So basically, these bodies are the, as I told you, they are the prime bodies for the protection of child rights. So uh, they are basically the guardian of the children,
Mm.
their safety, their their development, and their welfare. So they are the guardian of all this. So these bodies have, you can't believe they have so many powers basically to see that no child abuse happen with, in any institution, anywhere, in fact, not in the home or house or schools, any other institution, in the public transportation, anywhere. So basically, they are the bodies who take care that if uh, if a case is reported, for example, about the child abuse, and the concerned enforcement agencies or the police is not doing anything about this, then they are empowered to, the commissions are empowered to take the cause in their own hands, to grill the police, to ask for the inquiry reports, to direct them to start investigation, register the case against the perpetrators, and take it to the court. And similarly, they also have the power uh, to audit, the child safety audits in the schools and different institutions. It may be a religious institution, maybe a social institution, or any kind of institution. So they can also make some kind of an audit, what is what is the reality, basically, whether the children are safe there, whether there is some mechanism to hear their complaints, whether their complaints are properly addressed, whether the institutions are making reporting the where the some kind of an offense is committed under the statutory framework, whether the police are reported about the matter by the institutions. So all that is basically the role and the powers of these commissions. And since Supreme Court uh, had asked the petitioners, which is the Justice Srila Prabhupada Foundation, to give a fresh representation to these commissions. They said, okay, you had given earlier the previous representation. There is no response to this. You give it fresh now. We are directing these institutions, these commissions, to consider your complaints and your grievances and to act upon it. So therefore, in compliance of the Supreme Court order of 25th November, we gave fresh representation. So the objective was to place the Supreme Court directions before these authorities and seek compliance in letter and spirit. So it was a continuation of the lawful process. There was no fresh allegations. It was a continuation of the earlier process.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And thank you for explaining things so clearly because for a lot of our viewers and listeners, a lot of this is quite new to them in terms of how the legal system works, and a lot of our viewers are actually not in India. I was looking at our YouTube stats the other day, and 1/3 of our viewers are in the UK,
Oh,
1/3
yeah.
are in the USA, and
Yeah.
the other third are scattered. So because you're explaining it so clearly, it really helps the wider global audience to understand, how the
I
Supreme Court works.
Yeah, but I'm trying to be very simple in my conversation so that everybody understands. Maybe I'm able to make people understand, in a simple layman language.
Thank you. Thank you. So, what would you say now, Ajay? What would you say to survivors who are afraid to come forward because of institutional power?
See, first of all, there is nothing to be afraid of. Why? Because the law exists. The law exists to protect the vulnerable and the weaker sections of the society. It may be children or it may be any other marginalized class. So the law is in place, the legal mechanism is there. So unless and until you're going to approach or you're going to make the complaints to these authorities, how they will act and why they would act. Okay. Besides that,
Mm, mm,
the the major roadblock or a dissuading factor to a victim is or a survivor is that the process is little daunting. The lawful mechanism do exist, but the persistence is not there, or maybe there are. I mean, it's little difficult procedure, and they also worry about their own safety. They also worry about uh, their reputation getting hurt in case they're going to approach them, and also to that they will have to shell out a lot of money on the lawyers, who is going to take up their case to the authorities or to the courts, and what will be the outcome? Nobody knows. So there's a lot of uncertainty is there. So that the survivors basically don't report their matters to the authorities, and that is the biggest mistake they do because if they don't come forward, the perpetrator of the crimes, I mean, of the child abuse and all that, they think that they are free. They are totally scot free. They can do anything with anybody. Nobody is going to report the matter. Nobody is going to take up the matter to the police and the courts. And they keep committing these crimes with other children. So we have to understand that it is not for their own welfare, for their own justice, but it is in the interest of the society at large. It is in the public interest that they have to come forward. And believe me, it is not like uh, that the survivors don't get justice. In my practice of last 30 years, even I have done several matters wherein the the initially the police may be little reluctant to take any action, but after we have come into action, they have registered cases against the criminals, against the people who have committed serious offenses, and the courts have convicted them. The courts have convicted them after the trial and everything. See, the thing is, the law in respect of these crimes is very very stringent. The punishment is very severe. So, with the minors, with the children, they are covered under POXO, as I told you. So, in case it covers more than one aspect of the sexual offenses. It covers not only the rapes, but also the molestation, the harassment, the stalking, and many other the layers of these offenses. Besides that, for corporal punishment, if you are beaten, if you are physically injured, there is a separate law in place. And for other kind of cruelty in the schools, for example, somebody is neglecting you, abandoning you, or asking you to do their uh, their works like a bonded labor, which I mean, we have received complaints where the children in some of the ISKCON institutions have been forced to do menial jobs, you know, or maybe they are told like you are worthless or you are stupid. I mean, I'm talking about now little lesser graver cases, but that has lot of psychological impact on these children, which never goes. Even if they grow old, it's always in their life. They always suffer from this kind of trauma which they have suffered. So what I'm saying is, uh, for these kind of offenses, there's a Juvenile Justice Act in India. So which takes care of there are the competent authorities which have been created under these acts who will take care of the children. And I also want to highlight and bring it to the knowledge of all the audience that one of the major reasons why they don't report is that they don't want to be highlighted in public. They really care about their reputation. So keeping in view, we have another statutory framework which have been adopted recently. Not recently, it's been a long time now, that in case of a child or a minor below 18 years, in case he reports or she reports or somebody reports on their behalf to the police, then their information with regard to their identification, their name, their age, their parental, their address, all that will not be disclosed to anybody. And all that will not be reported either by the police in their record or by the courts in their record. And in fact, even the media is also under an obligation not to disclose their names, their details, their photographs, basically to keep the dignity
mm,
of the survivor and not to play with their reputation.
mm,
So they should not worry about that they will be exposed or people are going to you know come to know about this. So all that
mm,
fears or apprehensions should not stand in the way of their reporting to the police. And similarly, there is a witness protection program. There's a policy here. So if you are filing a case against or giving a complaint against somebody, and you are acting as a witness, so you don't need to really come to the court in case your safety is you feel that your safety is at risk. So the court can also record it by a video conference, like we are talking to each other.
mm, mm,
Same way, they can record the statement, take a digital signatures, finish. So it is so convenient. The technology has made it so convenient and so easy that you don't have to just run, chase the police officer or the courts or your lawyers. So things have, I mean, now with the development of science and the AI, things the courts have also adopted this system in their infrastructure. And there is also a provision for giving the protection to the child, vulnerable witnesses or the children. So in case they apprehend that somebody can cause some kind of a injury to them or can unnecessarily restrict them or confine them, the courts can direct the police to give them protection. So all these mechanism is in place. The only thing is now that you have to be little brave and you have a spirit to fight against the person who has committed any kind of wrong with you, and you just see that this man who is doing it with you, some kind of abuse, is not stopping at you. He's doing with others also, must be doing.
mm.
So this is my message to these survivors that, don't be afraid. And now you have organizations like Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation.
mm,
who are, without any selfish interest, only in the public interest.
mm, mm,
The very objective of this organization is a non-profit making organization being run by and founded by Mr. Naveen Krishna Das. And he had been, uh, when I met him, I was really impressed by his works, his his devotion, his you know his love for the children, and also his pain which he's suffering, that these children's concerns remain unaddressed, and the people who have been indulging in the child abuse, uh, their cases have been reopened, revised by the CPOs, and very minimal, or just restrictions have been put on them. And it's more or less like a cover up, under the influence of gurus and other people over there. Those who have influence of all level, they can get their work done in a very easy manner and continue to do it. There are some instances when a very popular guru, I don't want to take his name here, have been doing it for years altogether, and it is in the knowledge of the ISKCON authorities. Yes, this is happening. They're also dealing with this case. They're acknowledging, yes, this is being going on, but still the matter is not reported to the police. I mean, how can you leave the innocent children or the survivors to go to the police and to take up their own case, or to tell them you must take this matter to the police?
mm,
Why can't they initiate this process as a guardian of those children?
mm, mm,
So that is a matter of concern. And now this organization, they have opened their website, they have opened all the channels, and they are inviting the children, the victims and the survivors, to report them, and so that they can take up their issue, their matters, and can fight for their rights, can fight for their justice. uh, that's a great work
mm,
they are
mm,
doing, and it's very now convenient for the survivors to at least have somebody. It's an organization which can really take care of their interest.
mm, mm. And in terms of what's happening now or what happens in the future, so the Indian Supreme Court ordered this statutory investigation, which started last year. What's happening now? What's the future for this investigation?
See, the future of this investigation uh, is now, at least, we see a future in this investigation. There is no denying to the fact that uh, there are certain lobbies and certain powerful people who don't want the investigation to happen
Mm,
in these
mm,
cases. And the law enforcement system also, somehow or the other, in one way or the other, come into influence of these people. But in India, as well as in UK, because we more or less we have same kind of law mechanism, criminal law system in UK as well as in India, and some part of US also is the same. So the only now hope is, since the Honorable Supreme Court has interfered in this issue, and they have issued the directions to the child protection authorities. So this investigation uh, now cannot be hijacked. It appears
mm, mm,
fine. So they will be now more serious and more accountable. They know that if they are not going to take up this matter seriously, if they are not going to direct the police to investigate this matter or to register cases or to take it to the courts, this foundation is not going to sit silently. They are going to again take up this matter with the courts and going to highlight their inactions, which can have a very serious repercussion as far as the working of these institutions are concerned. So they will be in a very poor light in case they don't act upon it. So I am very hopeful that investigation will be done in these matters, and they are going to take it seriously now.
Mm,
And I mean, just to add to it, we are now following it up with these authorities. We are sending communications to them. We are going to put, different whatever mechanisms are available in law, just to supervise, just to see, just to follow it up, and ask for the information from these people that what are you doing on this complaint. And our client, our foundation is very much, they have given us the instructions that please follow it up, just see that if they are taking any action or not. In case they are not doing it, then take whatever measures which are required
mm,
for the for the rights, for safeguarding the rights of the children.
mm. Thank you, Ajay. I've really appreciated our conversation today. Um, it's been very concise and to the point. And I appreciate how you have explained things very clearly uh, in terms of what's happened and what's happening now. And I, I, I mean, I've mentioned this already, but I'll say it again. As a member of the Hare Krishna community, I'm overjoyed with what's happening and really pleased because I really think this will encourage and is encouraging more survivors of child abuse to come forward and to speak out. And I've seen this happen in the past when I've recorded a podcast with a survivor, and then someone else gets in touch, and then someone else wants to speak out. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a domino effect. It's a domino effect.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
if you're a survivor of child abuse in ISKCON and you thought that you were the only one, you now discover that you're not the only one. And there's a group of you, and you can support each other and encourage each other. So I am delighted with what the work of the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation. And I have interviewed Dhira Govinda Prabhu actually twice before on this podcast. And it's always a delight to hear his conviction. He has a strong conviction.
Yes.
He's very much a person that if he's focused on something, he'll go for it until he achieves what he wants to achieve.
Well,
So
I share with you about this Veera Govinda Prabhu's commitment to the whatever task he takes in hand. He really, you know, do a very in-depth research it. And same about Shanaka Prabhu. I think you must be knowing him also. I mean, they are really the prime and the most, known child activists, as far as the ISKCON as a body is concerned. And they have also contributed a lot uh, for bringing all this material available for the foundation to really work upon it. And the foundation itself has have made a lot of research and collected, talked to the victims and their survivors and taken their statements, and the other, the decisions of child protection authorities, the offices of ISKCON, as well as the ISKCON had themselves, published the articles regarding the child abuse in their own ISKCON communication website. So all that have been uh, a detailed research regarding that, all that have been done. And this is the result that we are seeing now, that yes,
mm,
even the Supreme Court has ordered, because the Supreme Court, in the Indian Supreme Court, they rarely interfere, in public interest litigation. It's only where they feel like, yes, this is there's some kind of a bona fide in a particular petition, that they really think that they believe that yes, their interference is required, that they interfere.
Mm.
So it's really a remarkable, a landmark case from that angle. And I'm very hopeful that finally the survivors and the victims, they can really hope that some kind of a justice, which they really, they will cherish, they like, although their wounds cannot be healed, I know that, I mean, it will remain, but still they will have, they will have the satisfaction that the people who have committed wrong with them, they have, they have faced the rigors of law, hopefully. And this foundation will definitely keep on working for them, as per my information, and as per my talks with their management authorities.
Thank you, Ajay. And what I'm going to do with this podcast on both the Facebook and the YouTube version is I'll put a link to the Justice for Srila Prabhupada Foundation website. So people can look at the website. It's a great website, by the way. People can look at the website. They can read all the information they need to read. In fact, the website and the video they put together a very clever video. It was very useful for me to prepare for this podcast today by looking at their website.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to make sure that other people, the thousands of people that watch this podcast, because well, it will be thousands, I'm sure, will look at their website as well. Um, so, Ajay, we've
Just
been
one thing,
chatting.
just
Yeah,
just
go
one,
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
before you close the session, just one thing I want to just say. I want to clarify that this exercise of child protection and fighting for child rights is not against any faith or any institution in particular. So it's not a fight against the ISKCON or its management or anybody else. It's basically it's more issue, which is which issue has been not only taken by and addressed by different legislation of a country, but internationally. If we talk about UNICEF and other, international organization, which have been laying down the rules and regulations how the child safety should be ensured, you know and the even India has been, being a member of these international organizations, have taken up all those agreements. The provisions of these agreements have been introduced in the legislation, and they have enacted. And the same is the case with other countries, even whether it is UK or USA or Japan or Singapore or whatsoever. So this is a much larger issue, much above any particular institution or any particular faith. So I just wanted to make a brief clarification that it is not against anybody in particular. It's basically the issue, the legal issue, which is to be addressed.
Mm. Thank you, Ajay, for clarifying that. And thank you for your time today, because I get the impression that you're a very busy man. And I'm pleased that we finally found a time and a day to record this podcast. It wasn't easy initially, but we got there in the end. So if you just stay in the Zoom room, Ajay, Mr. Garg, and I'll say goodbye to the
Yeah.
viewers and listeners at home. But a huge thank you to Ajay Garg from Garg and Garg Advocates for being our guest on this week's edition. It was a different type of podcast, and we were discussing a really serious topic that we needed to go through thoroughly because there's a very big kind of legal aspect to it. So I'm grateful to Ajay for giving up his time. I'm grateful to you for tuning into episode 204. I still can't believe that we're in the 200s already. So until next week, I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.